Hello everyone and welcome to another devlog for my immersive sim game Tempered Flames. I was on vacation this week, so B-roll footage will be from that, and so I thought I'd take the opportunity to take a walk down memory lane and see the amazing progress we've made so far. Let's get started. So I started working on Tempered Flames at around the same time that the Kung Flu showed up and everyone went crazy. I was also beginning to work part-time as an IT guy for a manufacturing plant, so a lot was changing for me. I was also finishing up a year of a theology master's and couldn't wait to start doing my own thing after being in school for what feels like way too long. So I knew I wanted to make my big project, but at first I had no idea what Tempered Flames would actually be. I focused a lot on creating a first-person movement system for some kind of parkour game, and I made some 3D assets for a magical elf-themed setting. I had this idea for a world where only elves were capable of using magic and only a certain group of elves could create fire. The story was going to be about an elf wrestling with his personal desires and doing his duty, but I began to feel like I had to make the message I wanted to tell in my story a little bit more clear. Anyways, I also messed with creating a cartoon fire shader because I was really dead set on some sort of toon graphics from the beginning, but it would see a few different iterations over the next few months. At this point I was really running with the idea that the game would be a parkour game, so I made a really complicated movement system that relied on state changes that I never ended up using. But it wasn't all pointless, it's going to come in real handy later on, stay tuned for that. This was also the point at which I reworked the story. Instead of focusing on the elves, it would now be about the human side of the world, where a devastating revolution brought the old kingdom to a bloody end. It becomes up to the protagonist to then decide whether he will bring the old kingdom back, or allow the tides of the new world to swallow him up. May marked a huge turning point for the game and for the channel. Creating the first playable demo for Tempered Flames seemed to be a popular topic, and it got like 700 views as of this video, which is more than any other video got on this channel, so I guess I better make more demos in the future. It's coming up, don't worry. I'm kind of taking a lunch break here right now because I still have to work, but I'm really glad to be able to come out here because this is such a beautiful place. Like, this is amazing. Yeah, you just get all sorts of ideas from coming out here into nature and just like taking a break. Not to mention a good opportunity to just kind of pray. Of course, the best place to pray is in a beautiful cathedral or church. It just kind of makes me think about like world building too. Like, what kind of plants and places would like a fictional world be in? What would be a fun place to explore for a game? Something I thought would be important for games to have is to make the player think about where they are, which is something that I always wanted to do in my RPG game. There's a loud helicopter up there. But yeah, if I ever make an open world game, I wouldn't have any map markers. I would want the player to know where they are, to be like, okay, this is this place, I know this place, I've been here, I've seen it. Where am I supposed to go? Uncharted territory, whatever. Not using map markers, but using their brain and using their memory and taking in their surroundings. So I don't know if any of that made sense, just some random thoughts, but anyways, we'll see what else I can find this weekend. But yeah, this month saw the creation of a dungeon to play through, as I finally decided to scrap the whole parkour idea and take inspiration from Dishonored, an immersive sim game set in a fictional industrial empire. The player of an immersive sim game requires a toolbox, since the whole point of the genre is to create creative solutions to problems. In this case, it's a collection of abilities to make use of in order to mess with enemies. I don't want this game to be a stealth game like Dishonored, so the abilities will be more useful in combat rather than geared towards stealth, even though stealth will be just as viable of an option as any other playstyle. I did some experimentation with art styles. I snagged a bunch of different Unity assets to work with, but ultimately I knew I would have to create my own, as the hand-painted look wasn't really working for what I was hoping to do. We're skipping June because I basically took a break during that month. I was kind of sick and tired of the game being in this partial, unfinished, unpolished state, kind of a perpetual prototype. I wanted to actually start designing levels, so I created this outline for the first level. Now, I know what you might be thinking, that it seems like I'm not really doing any of this in any particular order, I'm just kind of like winging it. Part of the issue is that I have to wrestle with interesting video topics and not really get myself bored of development by just fixing bugs all the time and polishing everything. So I'm trying to get a lot of broad strokes painted really quickly, instead of make everything really precise. It's going to be more or less unpolished for a little while. I'm gonna have to deal with the consequences of that eventually, which is going to end up with me just fixing bugs for like a year probably. But so far it's working, and the progress is always visible, which really is hugely motivating, and motivation is really important in game development, because I know this is going to take me a long time, and I just want to be able to see my work, share it, be proud of it, and show people something that they can enjoy. Anyways, once I got the level layout done, I was honestly immediately annoyed with how bad it looked. First thing I did after that was done was I started to work on the new assets to create the art style that will stick with the game throughout its development. I found a game called Ambuscade while watching a course on game development by the guy who made the first tree, David Whale. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, unfortunately. And I thought its pixelated style was perfect to convey the atmosphere of a broken world that lost something, especially coupled with the high contrast of toon-shaded NPCs and important object, which we haven't quite done yet, but it's going to to be a very unique art style. And it matches with the theme of Tempered Flames, which part of it is duty and all that, but part of it is also a world that essentially rejected God, which is why it's kind of got this emptiness, this thing that it's missing, right? So I'm about a third or halfway up the mountain at this point. I've never been up here when it's been this cold. I usually come in like July or August, but now it's September and it feels like fall. I'm just thinking about all the progress I've made in Tempered Flames at this point. I'm obviously nowhere near to a third or halfway done, even not even close to halfway done the vertical slice. It's just great to look back and see how much was done, right? Obviously still lots of work ahead, but it's good to kind of come out here, take a break, just be in nature and stuff. Thanks be to God. Here we come to the newest and biggest addition, the combat system. This is still fresh in my mind, and I went into a lot of detail about it in its own dedicated video, so go check that out if you're interested. But basically, up until then, the AI was just repeating a pattern of moves over and over again and wasn't reacting to the player at all. Now, the enemies will actually behave in a way that feels believable. He's going to try to stay alive, he's going to try to kill you. Also, the player has a few more options in combat, like strong attack. I still have to make a few tweaks, like adding the possibility for timed block, and making sure that you can attack an enemy from behind even though he's blocking. I also properly added in the lightning ability. Its effect was created by Shine, a great VFX artist whose work you should definitely check out. Basically, with the lightning, you'll be able to damage enemies, stun them a little bit, and electrocute world objects to lay crafty traps for enemies, because when the enemies touch them, they'll get electrocuted as well. At this point, I realized I'll have to rework the enemy detection system and add more states to their behavior. This will also allow me to create a stealth mechanic, so stay tuned for the next devlog when we start thinking about that. I'm so happy with where progress is at right now, and I really can't wait to get more done. Thanks so much for joining me on this trip down memory lane. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, smash subscribe and ring that notification bell if you want to see more. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook, links in the description, and God bless.